Hello and welcome to Undercommon Taste. This is a podcast where we create and discuss homebrew content for tabletop RPGs.
Who would have thought, with the way you fought, you'd be so very brave? Now it seems we need someone else to fill this empty grave.
I'm Ian Woodworth. I'm joined by my co-host James Daly, and today we are going to be talking about the Nimble RPG.
This looks exciting. I wasn't sure what to expect when you sent the information about it. I'm like, okay, it's a letter fast tactical RPG, and you've got like a weird, it might be a griffin thing, kind of looks like a house cat almost, I don't know. But going through, I really like what this has to present. There's a lot of really good things in here.
Yeah, and like I was saying last time, I just recently ran a game of Nimble at the library. The teen librarian is currently on maternity leave, and so the teen D&D club, the games that she would normally run, has been sublet out to me and to one other GM. And so we ran this game, or I ran this game. I had 3 players, and I ran the trusty one-shot of the Wild Sheep Chase.
Okay.
That is my go-to one-shot for any of these games, and I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised with how well it went.
Nice.
The entirety of the Wild Sheep Chase, whenever I run it in 5e, because I tend to get a lot of new players that come out to play D&D at the library, usually takes me about the full 4-hour window that I normally get to run the game in 5e. And I was able to run the entire module, beginning to end, in 2.5 hours.
It's not bad at all. That's probably about max time, even for adults. Again, attention span is a thing that you definitely have to contend with. That is the hidden monster at the table that we often forget about.
And honestly, if I hadn't been DMing for 3 very obviously neurospicy teenagers, and I had been able to keep everyone a little bit better on task, I probably could have gotten it done in my allotted 2-hour window.
Okay.
There was definitely some table talk going on and definitely some rabbit trails going down. But I think that if I had managed to keep everyone perfectly on task, I would have been able to finish the module in half the time it takes me to run it in 5e.
Okay.
And to that end, I would say that by its tagline, a fast tactical TTRPG, Nimble delivered on its promise.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I almost want to call this rules light, because again, you have most of the same rules, but I mean, the entire core book is maybe 50 pages in entirety, and that's all the everything versus almost 200 for the player's handbook in D&D.
I think it's closer to 300 when you count in all the spells.
Yeah, so I mean, this is very trimmed down, but all of the mechanics that you need are in here. I think one of the things that really stuck with me that okay, I'm going to like what this has to present. 2 pages in, it's just if you've never played, here's how to play, how to be a good player. And it goes through and be heroic, embrace failure. You shouldn't try to fail, but some of the best moments come from fails or bad decisions. That's great. I really like this tag here that I think even veteran players tend to forget. Describe your actions, not the mechanics. Don't say, I want to make an examination check. Do say, I search for books and paintings on the walls looking for a secret door. So again, it helps increase that immersion. Don't say, I want to make an attack roll. Say, hey, I want to try to hit this thing with my sword. I think even as veteran players, we tend to kind of we lose that immersion. We take that step back and we start thinking about the rules and the mechanics of the game more than the game itself. And so, I mean, even starting with that for, hey, you may have never played an RPG before. So here's basic rules, how to make the game fun. Here's how to make it immersive. I think that was a great way to start it.
Yeah, and the GM guide also starts off with a very similar sort of blurb about GMing isn't that hard, and giving you all of just a series of guidelines on how to just dive in and be a GM if you don't have any experience being a GM, because a lot of people get very nervous about, just jumping straight in, running a game. In this case, it's even saying you don't even have to have any experience as a player. You just need to jump in and do that. And so it's got 3 steps. It says, step 1, familiarize yourself with the core rules. So read or skim the core rule book. It's 57 pages cover to cover. It's not that difficult to go through. It's pretty well spaced out. It's a quick read. Like, I think I managed to skim the whole thing in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Step 2, get your friends together, 3 to 5 players. And then step 3, don't expect to remember all the rules perfectly.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 steps.
And I think, again, it's been discussed before, but as much as we both love Critical Role and Matt Mercer, everyone thinks when they GM that they have to be at that level. And Matt Mercer is at the absolute pinnacle of his craft. He's a voice actor. He's been doing this for years. He's been gaming for probably a good
Decades.
chunk of his life. And so he is literally at the pinnacle of his craft. And it's like, hey, I'm going to paint. And if I want to paint something, I'm not expecting to be Michelangelo or Raphael or Da Vinci. I'm just painting something to either make some happy colors or to express something or to do some fun with paint and maybe do nothing with it. And that's kind of what it is you're just gathering with friends and having an afternoon or an evening or whatever it may be. You're there for some laughs and some funs and throw some math rocks and to forget about the dreary everyday life of bills and responsibilities and deadlines and all of that other crap.
Yeah. And so there are 3 rules in the very beginning of the GM guide. Rule number 1, when in doubt, rule in favor of the heroes. It's pretty simple. It's a design philosophy that carries throughout the game. In instances where you have to round damage or something of that nature, you always round in favor of the heroes. So when the heroes are dealing damage, you round up. When the heroes are taking damage, you round down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's simple. It's easy to remember. You don't have to remember, okay, am I rounding up or rounding down? You always round in favor of the heroes.
Yeah, and that's kind of a 5e take, and it does give it a little extra squish, and a player is rarely going to argue that you went light on them, unless, like, again, if they're hardcore players, but again, while hardcore players might play Nimble, they're also going to be understanding that this is a different type of game. So again, rarely is the player going to be like, dude, you went too easy on me.
Yeah. So rule number 2, let the players do cool things.
Absolutely, real cool.
Yeah, it says default to yes. If they come up with an idea that isn't explicitly in the rules, let them do it. Tell them the consequences of failure should they try to do it, and let the dice decide.
Yeah, I think yes and is a great thing to embrace with this one. Even if you don't think it's going to work. I mean, if it's something crazy like, hey, I'm going to jump off the cliff and I'm going to flap my arms really hard to see if I can fly, you can try to roll for it, go for it. And then, yeah, let the dice talk. But again, if it's something questionable, yes. And then while they're making that roll, depending on how successful or unsuccessful that roll is, in the back of your mind, okay, what could be a consequence of this action? And then kind of start threading that through the story. Yeah, you can try, go for it, Again, if it's something completely off the wall, that makes it a little harder. But by and large, yeah, let your players work with what they got.
Yeah. So next one is avoid no, it doesn't work. So avoid flat no's. Flat no's just stop progress. Always do the no but. If something cannot be done, offer them a workaround, offer them a silver lining to their failure, offer them a different course of action that they could take instead that would get them to the same goal.
I could see that. So for something like this, again, if your player wants to try to jump off the cliff and flap his arms really hard, okay, obviously, like maybe they have that Wile E. Coyote moment where they freeze for half a moment and then they realize that gravity still always works and so they fall. But instead of killing the player, maybe there is a lake or a pond or a pool, but now they have the challenge of they are separated from their party and now at great danger. So how do they regain or reattach to their party now?
Yeah. Next one, give everyone spotlight time. This is one that is tricky to do because you typically end up having a few very outgoing, gregarious players who really want the spotlight and really thrive in the spotlight. And then you have a few that really just want to sit back and be passive observers most of the time and just interact when they have to. And
Yeah.
you have to understand that dynamic of the players at your table, but you also want to make sure that the shy players get their chance to do their thing without the other players talking over them or stepping on their toes.
Yeah, and really when those players do step up, they almost always shine because they've been sitting there a lot of times they're too shy or they've been sitting there pondering something. Those are really some of the great moments, especially when the quiet one steps out with just an amazing solution or an oh my god moment, like I can't believe that just happened. And that's really what makes the game. That's really what brings a party cohesion together.
Yeah. Next suggestion is give more. So if they succeed on a check and they roll a huge amount higher than what they needed for the check, give them a bonus. The example here is like if you're picking somebody's pocket. If it's a DC 12 to pick their pocket and they roll a 21, give them a little something extra.
A little something, something. You found a key, too.
Yeah.
You found a password that they wrote down so they could remember it.
Yeah, something along those lines. And then it says when information is necessary, go ahead and let the characters who would know the information have the information.
Okay.
So, like, for instance, the hunter knows about this forest, the mage knows what an arcane symbol means. So, if you have something come up and there is a player there who it would make sense for their character to know this information, don't make anybody roll for it. Just go ahead and give it to them.
Yeah.
Don't gatekeep the information if you don't have to. This is a big design philosophy in OSR games. You don't want to hide critical information behind locked doors because there's a chance that it won't be found. You always want to have all of the relevant information for any given scenario freely available to the players so that they can use their creativity to fully explore and to fully plan how to overcome these obstacles, because especially in OSR play, it is very, very deadly.
Yes.
There is a very real risk of bodily harm in any of these games for characters, mind you,
Yes.
not for players. I have to specify sometimes. But the idea of OSR play is primarily to challenge the creativity of the player. Because if you just approach every encounter as a combat encounter, your character will die very quickly.
Yeah. And again, too, I think these, as you were talking about how this branches to OSR, this works for this. This works for GMing in general. Now, the only exception to this particular rule, again, if you were trying to run a more hardcore game, like if you're running something closer to second edition where the players are expecting to die, or if you're trying to roll something that's more Souls-like, then you can make that information more critical and more difficult. But generally for casual play, absolutely just kind of give, again, a little extra information or have that critical information, have someone know it. Definitely keeps the game rolling, and that way you're less likely to kind of run in circles as well.
And then rule number 3 is be honest and trustworthy. Roll in the open, so don't roll behind a screen. Don't fudge your rolls. This is a very quick-paced game. You need to make sure that people know that what you're rolling is actually what's going on.
Yeah.
And then the other one is telegraph danger. So if there is something there that can hurt the players, you need to let them know about it. They don't know what's in this room unless you tell them about it. Don't hide any of this behind, again, back to that same concept of don't hide critical information behind a locked door. Don't make them have to roll a check to see if there is a danger. Give them the context clues to figure out on their own if there is a danger.
Yeah. Again, something like an ambush from behind the door, or like someone hiding behind the chest, or maybe like it's not a mimic. What are the cloth monsters that look like
ragamuffins?
Yeah, something like that. There might be some clues, but again, with this type of game, that kind of critter is going to be less likely to pop out. But depending on how much of a challenge you want, this type of game, we're dialing things back. So there's a rug in the floor and it looks oddly suspicious, might be the type of clue you would give them to kind of telegraph that something's amiss.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we have gotten the GM 101 impromptu lesson out of the way, let's talk a little bit about Nimble.
Okay.
Nimble is, at its core, designed to be a way to speed up 5e. It is designed to be compatible with all 5e encounters. They have a video on their YouTube channel talking about translating 5e monsters to get their stats to where they should be to make them balanced in the Nimble system.
Okay.
I didn't really need to worry too much about that because it was a low-level scenario for me. I was running this for all second-level characters. So the translation is pretty seamless. But if you're going to be running a higher level game and you wanted some more iconic monsters, there are rules for that in the books, but there's also a video, talking about how to do that online. And the general turn progression is that you start off, you have 3 actions every turn. There's a whole list of things that you can do as heroic actions. You can move, you can cast a spell, you can attack, you can assess. Assess is asking a question, creating an opening to give a bonus to another ally, anticipate danger to reduce damage that you would take.
Yeah, I think that one's a big one. Like, even when you play 5e, someone's like, you'd be in the middle of combat, like, can I ask them a question? Can I talk? Well, I mean, you're in the middle of combat, you can try, and you kind of have to kind of work that in to the turn as best you can, or like, hey, can I throw a potion at this person? And it's not really my attack, but it's not a bonus action. And so you're not sure how that works. And here's just any action your character wants to take, whatever it may be, counts as one of their 3. So if they want to try it, then sure.
Yeah. And then there's also extra guidance of you do have some free actions. So like opening an unlocked door, shouting a simple phrase, dropping an item, ending concentration. Those are all things you can do one of them for free each turn.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, you have what are heroic reactions. So at the end of your turn, once you have finished everything you're going to do, all 3 of your actions reset. And you can, on all of the round leading up to your next turn, you can at any time spend 1 action to do a reaction. Now that means that when you get to your turn, you'll only have 2 actions to perform on your turn. But these heroic reactions really pull the rest of the party into the game and keep everyone focused on the action and help speed things up a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for that opportunity to interact with the game when it's not your turn.
So this is a really good thing, especially because, as Ian says, this kind of keeps everyone locked in the game at all times, especially like you're the barbarian and you've made your 1 attack roll and you've got 4 other people at the table and the wizard's sitting there going through their spell book, they spend 5 minutes trying to figure out which spell they want to cast. And then you've got 2 other people talking. And, sometimes depending on how on point the party is or how veteran the players are, depending, a single round can take 10, 15 minutes sometimes, hopefully not. But I've seen some single rounds stretch out for a really long time, where if you have these reactions that you can take intermediary, it does keep everyone kind of locked in, because the wizard might cast their fireball and perhaps all of the bad guys scatter, they take a reflexive action, they jump out of the way, they take half damage, and 3 of them land at your feet. Instead of waiting your whole turn, like, okay, well, I'm going to bop this one once it comes back to the table, I want to take my reaction, I want to finish this one off now. And it keeps everyone kind of tied in.
Yeah. So the heroic reactions that you have available, one is defend. If you are attacked and you take damage, you can use your reaction to defend and reduce the damage you take equal to your armor score.
Okay.
There are some things like psychic damage and AoE damage, like, fireballs, that you can't avoid, but most damage you can avoid using defend. You can make an opportunity attack. So if an enemy in an adjacent space willingly moves away, you can attack them with disadvantage. And a very important note is that only heroes can make opportunity attacks. You never have to worry about the enemies, the monsters, making opportunity attacks against the player characters. This plays further into that always be on the hero's side sort of mentality that this game has. One that is really cool is interpose. So you can move up to 2 spaces and swap spots with an ally if they would get hit, and then you get hit instead. This is really great for those big tanky characters.
Yeah.
Those big defender style characters, your paladins and fighters, like your sword and board, heavy armor characters. You can do that. And apparently, according to what I'm reading here, I did not realize this, but you can interpose and defend on the same turn.
Ooh, nice.
It says you won't be able to do either reaction again until your turn is over, since each of those is limited to 1 per round.
Okay.
So yeah, that is the third one. And then the last one is the help action. So if you can reasonably explain how your character could help another character in this situation. You can give them advantage on their roll.
So, like, maybe your character, like, hey, I'm going to stand behind this NPC so he can't step out of the way while the rogue's going to shoot at him with an arrow.
Yeah, or, like, I'm
I
going
might grab his
to...
shield arm, yeah.
Yeah, or I have this ice magic cantrip, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast it at his feet, not enough to deal any damage to him, but enough to make the ground slippery so that he is focused on keeping his balance and not on defending.
Yeah.
Something like that. And GM can call for a skill check or may grant advantage automatically depending on how good the idea is. And so that's the general flow of everything. You start off with 3 actions. You can perform all 3 of your actions. You get all of your actions back at the end of your turn. And then you have the ability to spend those actions for reactions as you are waiting for your turn to come back up. When your turn comes back up, you spend what actions you have left, and then they all refill and they continue going. The way that combat progresses, the heroes all go first.
Okay.
You can either start at, like what I did for most of mine, you start at the left and you go clockwise around the table, let everyone take their turn. And then once everyone's taken their turn, the monsters go, and then you start back over. If there is a situation where one of the characters specifically is initiating, you start with them, and then you work your way around the table.
That makes perfect sense. I like it.
Yeah, it really speeds things up. There is still an initiative in this game, but initiative doesn't determine turn order. Initiative determines how many actions you start with on your first turn of combat.
Ooh, okay.
So if you roll between 0 and 9, you start off with 1 action. 10 to 19, you start off with 2 actions. 20 plus, you start off with all 3 actions.
Okay.
So that is sort of playing into the how quickly you can respond to the threats.
Now, with this, are you rolling with D20s or are you rolling with multiple D6s? Because I've seen what I see, it looks like they're rolling off of D6s.
Well, they use D6s on the character sheet to denote how many actions you have. It's like a little action tracker bar on the top of the character sheet.
Gotcha.
Initiative is a D20 roll. Roll a D20, you add your initiative modifier, and that determines what your starting initiative is. Now, one of the things that I really liked about combat in this game is that there are no attack rolls. Every weapon has its damage dice. You roll the damage dice. If you roll a 1, your attack misses. If you roll max damage, it's a crit, and the primary die that you rolled max damage on explodes. And it continues to explode until you stop rolling max on that roll. So that means that things like daggers that have a D4 damage die, you have a 25% chance to miss, but you have a 25% chance to crit.
Right.
And so it's very swingy. It has the potential to have huge amounts of damage and also a pretty decent chance of missing. And it balances out with the bigger weapons like the Maul that I think is a D12. So with a D12, you have a 1 in 12 chance of missing and a 1 in 12 chance of critting. So you have a 10 out of 12 chance of just hitting for normal damage. So you're more reliable on actually hitting and dealing damage, but you're less likely to have those big explosive turns. Whereas with a weapon like the Greatsword has been made into a 3d4. And now how multiple dice work with this is you roll your dice, and then the die that lands furthest to the left out of all of them is considered your primary die. And that's the die that determines if it is a miss, a hit, or a crit.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The other 2 are just bonus damage if it hits.
Okay.
And so if you roll 3d4 and the leftmost die is a 1, you missed. If the leftmost die is a 4, it's a crit. And then you re-roll that 1d4. You don't re-roll all of them, just that 1. You just re-roll the primary die until it stops exploding.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's a fun, interesting system. I really like it. It really, really sped everything up a whole lot.
Nice.
And it provided a good bit of excitement about crits.
Absolutely.
Because exploding dice are fun.
Yes.
So one of the players at my table was I think the Vesper or the Zephyr. It's basically the equivalent of the monk. And their whole thing is, as long as they are making unarmed attacks, they don't take disadvantage for taking multiple attacks per round. So by default, if you take the attack action more than once on a single turn, each subsequent attack gains a level of disadvantage. So you would add an additional die to the pool, and then you would subtract the highest die from the pool to determine hit or miss or damage. As a Zephyr, as a monk, as long as they're making unarmed attacks, it's still only a D4, but as long as they're making unarmed attacks, they don't take disadvantage on subsequent attacks. So he would be up in combat, and he would be able to just punch 3 times, and he was just chucking those caltrops all day. And he was great. I ended up blowing him off of a bridge, and he took 40 feet of fall damage.
Ooh, ouch.
But he recovered. He got better.
It was just a scratch.
Yeah. The tricky thing about it was that put him out of range of the healer.
Ooh, ouch.
And so he had to limp his way back into healing range before he could get back up and into the fight. And so they actually had a whole round of them plotting and figuring out mechanically, what is the best and fastest way to get him back up here healed and into the fight. Because it was a Zephyr, it was a cleric, and a mage.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean I had a pretty good spread of a team for this encounter, and it turned out really well. But yeah, so that was another part of figuring out, okay, how do I help actions, and how do I manage to get everything lined up, and how do we prepare all of this, and figuring out the mechanics of how do we make this happen in a tactical way to keep this going without this wizard throwing another spell at us and knocking one of us off of the bridge and into the chasm. And then we have to do it all over again.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want ideally from the party at the game tables. You want everyone kind of like immersed in the game. There's something on the line, and the party's like throwing out ideas, trying to work together to solve some sort of puzzle or conundrum or problem. That's exactly, as a DM, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah. So with regards to taking damage and what have you, you still have your normal pool of hit points, just like you would in any TTRPG. And once you run out of hit points, you take a wound. And by default, you have a track of 6 wounds. If you get hit while you are at 0 hit points, you end up taking 2 wounds. And if you get crit, you take 3 wounds. Once you hit 6 wounds, you die.
It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim.
And the big thing about the dying condition, which is whenever you hit 0 hit points and gain a wound, is that you're limited to 1 action per round.
Okay.
Which, falling off the bridge, put the Zephyr into dying, which really accelerated their panic of trying to figure this out, because he only had 1 action to move on his turn. And while he had a larger move speed than the other 2, he only had 1 action that he could use to move until he got healed.
Okay.
And so they had to figure out how to speed that up and how to get healing to him so that he could actually get up and around.
No, and again, I like that too. That's like with 5th edition, the saving rolls, like the death save rolls, can be a little confusing sometimes. So I like and again, this also kind of builds that suspense because, taking your monk as an example, he's using his 1 action, so they are crawling with their 1 action, so it's like they're limping along with, trying to get back to the party. And as you said earlier, if you take any extra damage while you're at 0 or 1 hit point, you get 2 more wounds. And those add up really, really fast. So like 2 hits would be almost probably enough to put them down. So again, yeah, that definitely amps up that urgency of saving that character. But they're not just kind of sitting there rolling 1 set of dice and they're done. They're still kind of involved in the action of what's going on around them.
And one other detail of dying that I missed for the game, but that didn't really come into play, is that if you are dying, you have to make a DC 10 strength save in order to attack or cast spells. And if you fail that save, you take another wound from the movement of you doing that.
Oh, I like that. And that's kind of like, if you're like stabbed and you're kind of like trying to put pressure on the wound to slow the bleeding. Yeah, you can take your hands off and swing that axe, but that swing of the axe, you're going to bleed out more. So if you
Yeah.
miss, I love that they've put in something that has a cost. But again, thematically, how your player would play or react, you as the player could make that decision. I like that mechanic a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole you got your chest caved in, and so you got broken ribs digging into your internal organs.
Right.
So yeah, you could play it safe and, not move around, or you can make an attack, and your movement of making that attack, or that movement of you doing the somatic components to cast a spell, that's going to cause everything to shift around, and it's just going to shred your insides that
Yeah.
little bit more. So that is this is the point where we're going to get into stats and skills, because as I said, this is a way to simplify 5e. That is its intent. That is what it is going for. Personally, I kind of wish that they had veered a little bit away from 5e and made this a little more of its own thing, but I understand that it is here for a purpose, and it is performing that purpose pretty well.
That's a good bridge.
Yeah, it is. So they have simplified everything down to 4 stats: strength, dexterity, intelligence, and will. They have basically combined strength and constitution into strength, and they have combined wisdom and charisma into will.
Okay.
So will is your force of personality, courage, and wisdom. Strength is your raw physical power and resilience, endurance, and resistance to harm. Dexterity is your agility and reflexes. Intelligence is your knowledge and reasoning skills. And then they've condensed the skills from 18 skills that you would have on your character sheet in 5e down to 10. You've got Arcana, Examination, Finesse, Influence, Insight, Might, Lore, Naturecraft, Perception, and Stealth. Like, Might is athletics, Finesse is acrobatics, and Sleight of Hand.
Yes. Influence is going to be all of your charisma checks.
Yeah, Influence is all your charisma checks. Lore is
your knowledge, and
lore is history.
Yeah.
Because Arcana is Arcana, Naturecraft is nature. Lore would also be religion.
Yes.
So yeah, they did simplify it down a little bit, but there are still 10 skills, and they're all still just a d20 roll.
And these are straight d20 rolls too. You don't have the whole like, oh, well, do I have proficiency, and how high is my proficiency, and all of that. They're
actually,
oh, do we actually throw proficiency in?
That is dependent on your class.
Okay.
So each class has one stat that is their key stat, which is the stat that they're focused on. And that stat, whenever they do skill checks with it, they get advantage on all of those rolls.
Okay.
And they also have one that is a weakness. And so all of the checks that they do on those, they roll at disadvantage.
I like that. I think that's a good balance.
So, for example, the mage at my table, they have a key stat of intelligence, and their weakness stat is strength. And so all of their intelligence checks, they rolled at advantage. All of their strength checks, they rolled at disadvantage. Or that may have just been saves. I can't remember. It may have just been saves.
Okay.
Let me just double check real quick. Yeah, that was just saves. My bad. They get advantage on intelligence saves and disadvantage on strength saves.
Okay, so the skills themselves don't have a proficiency modifier?
No.
Okay.
You do get to add your stat.
Yes.
Which they did simplify. There's not, the 1 to 20. It's from 0 to +5.
Okay.
There may be a build, because whenever you're building your character, you choose from one of 3 standard arrays.
Okay.
You do one of 3 arrays. You can do a standard array, which is 2 + 2 is a 0 and a -1. Do a balanced, which is a +2, 2 +1s and a 0, or a min-max, which is a +3, a +1, and 2 -1s. I don't know why you would ever not take balanced, because the 3 options do not add up to the same amount.
Yeah.
Balanced has a net of +4, standard has a net of +3, and min-max has a net of +2.
Interesting. Yeah. I was looking at the two and looking at the skills, just looking to see like what ties with wants. There are some minor balance issues within the game itself. So it looks like for your skill checks, a slight majority leans towards will. So if you wanted to run a will character, you're going to get more advantage running those checks. It looks like of our 10, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 10 is will, and then the rest are divided amongst the others. So it's like I've got 2 intelligence, one strength, 2 strength, only one for strength.
Yeah, might
Yeah,
is the only strength,
and then 2 for dex. So yeah, definitely. Again, there are some minor balance issues within the game, but I don't think it's anything that's game breaking.
Well, you also have to keep in mind the sort of things that you're doing with these skills.
Yeah.
Right? So the strength-based character is going to be doing strength things.
Understandably.
They're going to be doing things to try and use their might skill.
They're going to jump between buildings rather than trying to tightrope walk across.
And a lot of them, like the Berserker, which would be the Barbarian equivalent, their key stats are strength and dex. So they're going to have that dexterity to do the dexterity things too. And because you're focusing on that kind of a character, it really lets you focus on that kind of character. You don't really have to worry about the other things.
I'm with you on that one.
Oh, okay. So, see, I didn't have to worry too much about the character creation stuff because they all had characters already.
Okay.
So,
did you have pre-mates for them?
No, they had their own characters because this is a D&D club and they had played before.
Oh, excellent. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So you start off with, at level 1, mark your stat bonuses into each of your respective skills, and then place 4 additional skill points wherever you like. So all of your skills start at whatever their governing stat is, and then you can pick up to 4 of them to increase. Like, you can throw all 4 points into one skill if you really wanted to. If you wanted to play that barbarian that was just really, really strong, you could take the min-max and put a +3 in strength, and then you dump all 4 points into might, and then you have a +7 on all of your might rolls. You're gonna be absolute garbage at everything else.
You're Conan.
I don't.
Conan may have 1 or 2 points in dexterity.
Well, Conan, depending on whether you're talking about movies or the books.
I'm thinking Schwarzenegger.
Because Conan in the books is a thief. Like, he's scaling the towers and sneaking into places.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's dexterous and clever more than strong.
Yeah, I was going more with the 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan, yes.
Yeah. He-Man, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
He-Man would definitely be
along those lines. Hey, what's going on?
Right. Then with regards to armor, while unarmored or wearing regular clothes, your armor is equal to your dex. You can get some stuff that will up your armor, and that is primarily for use whenever you use the defend skill. That's whenever you're using the defend action or the defend reaction, that determines how much damage you're able to remove from the attack that hits you whenever you defend.
Yeah, because again, everything hits. And so it's just at that point, your armor class doesn't reduce the chance to hit. It literally reduces the amount of damage you take, which is more true to what armor should be when we think armor.
Yeah. So with regards to monsters and their armor, there are unarmored monsters, which means that they take the full damage roll plus the modifier. There are medium armor, which means they only take the dice roll. They ignore all modifiers unless they're negative. And then there's monsters with heavy armor, which take half damage from the dice.
Okay, nice. Okay. I like that. And again, too, whether you're hitting like a zombie, a skeleton, or like a giant like bug critter that's got a bunch of, plates and stuff on it. That makes sense.
Yeah. And, there is a table, I think it's in the GM guide it's just standard. Yeah, the monster builder, it's on page 29 of the GM guide.
Okay.
They're arranged by monster level, so level 1/4 to 20, and it tells you it's got 3 columns that say HP with no armor, HP with medium armor, HP with heavy armor. Average
Okay.
damage per round, their save DC if they have something that requires a save DC, and their equivalent CR for D&D.
Nice. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, so that really helps to make things easier to translate.
Absolutely.
And I was able to just sort of grab stats and drop them in for a few things. And there's a whole bunch of options for different aspects that you can throw onto the monsters. Flavorful monster abilities. So some of the things that I ended up actually using on different characters, one of them was Brute. So also knocks back a number of spaces equal to the primary die roll.
Ooh, okay.
So when I attacked with a bear, the bear had a SWAT, and so whenever it hit, it would also do a knockback. And it was I think a D8 roll.
Okay.
Luckily for the players, I never actually rolled really high on that because, knocking them back 40 feet on a hit would be really rough.
I think Explosive Death looks kind of fun. Again, on Death, explode dealing 2d6 to creatures within reach. That would definitely be like some sort of like bug or infested undead monster. I love that.
Yeah. See here, Shifty can move after being attacked.
Ooh, nice.
So if they get hit, they can move out of range. Parry, so that attacks against them miss on a 1 and a 2.
And a 2. Ooh, okay. I, as the DM, would probably use Blinding Spit a fair bit. I used to love the old Orcs of Grumsh. So yeah, I'd totally be seeing that. So splits a substance. Target must make a save or be blinded for 1 round. And so it's not super long, but it's enough to throw off the roll of things. And maybe a character wants to use that interpose action to try to like block that globule of gunk with their shield or whatever.
Yeah. And can't remember. I think I may have grabbed it from one of the monster stat blocks later on. But basically, once they hit bloodied, their damage die increases in size.
Ooh, okay.
Things like that. So they have the bloody condition. So bloody is a condition that you get when you're at half hit points. And then a lot of the legendary creatures also have a death throes ability. So when they hit 0 hit points, they do a thing and their hit points reset to a certain set value. Because of the way that the Wild Sheep Chase is set up and the way that it is written. Spoiler alert if you ever plan on playing this module, but this module has been out for, I think, 10 years now, so I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. The wizard that you're fighting at the end of the module has a modified Wand of True Polymorph. And it is designed so that at the end of the encounter, whenever things start looking like they're going badly for him, he's supposed to use the wand on himself and it malfunctions and turns him into a gibbering mouther. I just made that his death throes ability.
Okay, yeah.
So they reduce him to 0 hit points, boom, it triggers, he turns into a gibbering mouther.
Okay.
And then he starts off combat, he's got his summoned bed dragon. So he has used the wand to polymorph his bed into a dragon. And so it's this wooden dragon with, the tattered sheets for wing webbing. And, it runs down and it has a splinter breath weapon. Like I said, this is my favorite one-shot of all time. James Introcaso really likes this one-shot too. I heard him talking about it in I think it was a Dragon Talk episode.
Okay.
But it's an amazing one-shot. And so taking inspiration from some of the other legendary creatures, the legendary bloodied action for the wizard is when he hits bloodied, the bed dragon interposes for him.
Okay.
It comes in and it intercepts and it stands guard. Unfortunately, they took out the dragon before they even laid the first hit on the wizard.
Oh, wow.
Well, because I set it up to where, because it's a wooden construct, it was immune to a lot of magic, but it was vulnerable to fire.
Okay.
So fire was going to deal double damage to it, and the mage had a bunch of fire spells.
That'll work.
And so he hit it with some fire and, took 27 of its 36 hit points in one hit. But the game is designed to be very quick, very dynamic. The monsters all have things that they do. if you remember to do them. I didn't always remember to do the things.
Well, again, we go back to those GM rules. Don't expect to memorize all the rules all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. But, you can scroll through on the
Oh my
GM
god, a
guide.
kobold trapper attacks with a swarm of bees. I love this.
Yes. Yeah.
One thing, too, looking at this bestiary that I really like, and I think it was second edition that I recall, it may have been a different RPG back from the Misty Dawns when I kind of first encountered. But I like that you've got your bestiary and you've got your monster types that are broken up. But at the bottom, they have the types of loot you can generally find with these monsters. And so for kobolds here, we've got honey, lots of twine, sandwiches stolen, shiny objects, a dragon painting, poorly made or lovingly made, rotting meats, variety of traps, etc. So it tells you, again, the type of treasure or what kind of stuff that you can expect your monsters or your combatants to drop. Versus, again, with 5th edition, that table's so far separated, then you have to go into the Dungeon Master Guide if you want to do it. And even that table's hard to find, and you've got to do, while I love tables, you've got to roll 3 or 4 things, and it's in different books. And so figuring out what kind of loot your characters are supposed to get when they defeat a monster is very super clunky in 5th edition. And here, it's just kind of all right there and included, which I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, and, looking at this, it's reminding me of another mechanic for the GM running everything. There are different classifications, basically different grades of monsters that you can throw at the party. You have minions, which are, they're there, they have their attacks, they have 1 hit point. If the PCs hit 1, it's dead. You don't have to keep track of hit points. All you have to do is keep track of which one they're attacking, and if they hit it, it goes.
They are very much the 5e minions.
Or the 4e minions.
Is that 4e? I thought it was 5e. Or both.
5e doesn't have minion rules.
Oh, okay.
And then you have flunkies, which are basically just a normal monster, except they cannot crit.
Ooh, okay.
You can roll max damage on them, but their damage die never explodes. And it helps keep things going, keeps things sped up, keeps things moving. You don't have to keep rolling exploding dice. And then you have just your standard, which, follows all the normal rules. And finally, you have the legendaries, which have the extra stuff added on. So the first encounter that I did is the orc Guz and his 2 wolves that are tracking the sheep, and his cloaked sidekick that ends up being a bear. So it's 2 wolves and a bear and an orc. I made the 2 wolves and the bear flunkies so that they couldn't crit. Guz was the only one that could crit. He did crit once, but that just sped things up because I never had to worry about, okay, am I going to have to explode some dice here? No, I don't. I roll my dice, they deal the damage, we move along. I don't think that I ever actually had a turn where I was commanding things and making attacks against people that my turn for everything on the board lasted longer than 3 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, as a forever DM, I don't know that I have ever had an encounter where I had 4 to 6 monsters under my control that I had to move and attack with, and it went anywhere near that fast.
Nice.
So yeah, I am really happy with how this turned out. I'm probably going to be using this again. There have been people who have seen the listings on the library website for the teen TTRPG club, and they want to join, but they are not teenagers, and so they don't want to let them come in to the game for obvious reasons. And so they're considering doing adult TTRPG days. And so I'm probably going to run Nimble because it is very similar to 5e, because I think that will be close enough to D&D to actually get people in the door.
Right.
And far enough from D&D to where I feel like I can run it quickly and easily.
Yeah, it does. This is very streamlined. It is rules light. It's not near as clunky as 5e can get. I mean, I do still enjoy 5e, but again, it does get a little unwieldy at time, even with Wizards trying to streamline it. It's not like second editions. And sometimes you want to sit down at the table and you don't want to go through a library of rules and you just want to sit there and have fun and throw rocks. And this is definitely what this one's shaped for, which I like.
Yeah. I wish My personal gripes about this is I wish that I understand where they're coming from. I understand that the entire point of this game is to simplify and streamline the combat mechanics so that you can get combat done quicker and get back to the roleplay stuff.
Right.
That is the intent behind it. However, I wish that they had a little more support for the non-combat stuff in the rules, specifically for the newer GMs that maybe don't have as much comfort running roleplay stuff.
Fair. Yeah, roleplay unfortunately is overlooked in a lot of these.
Yeah, and there's practically no rules whatsoever for exploration. That entire pillar just sort of
Vanishes.
disappears into a puff of smoke in these rules. You have a skill that you can use for exploration. Was it the Naturecraft? Yeah, Naturecraft
Right.
skill that you can use for exploration, and that's about it. That is the limit to how this works.
But you know what? If you really want to delve into some mechanics for that exploration pillar, look up our last episode that we just had where we were talking about Ian's game Post Apocalyptica. And we do go over some options for how to kind of flesh out or interact with that exploration mechanic that if you want to add to this would work very well.
Right. So first off, it is post-apocalyptia.
Oh,
There's no C at the end.
Okay. Sorry, I'm thinking the band.
Yeah, I know you were. And I realized as I was doing editing that I never once said what the name of the game was in that entire episode.
Well, again, it's still in its formations. It's in its larval state.
We got started talking about it and we just got into the sauce of it, and I never actually did a proper introduction of what the game was.
Yes.
So, yeah, we're absolutely going to be going back to that and talking about that again, talking about different aspects of that game design. But yeah, that is something. I mean, there are other games that you can. This is condensed enough to the point where I could see people using multiple games for a single session.
Yeah.
Like simply using Nimble only for combat.
Yes.
And then using a different game, like maybe something like The Quiet Year to do exploration stuff. Or using something like Colossal, like I've been listening to Rainey Plays Games. Rainey was on back in December. He just wrapped up, I think back in end of March, wrapped up his playthrough of Colossal. And there are exploration rules surrounding everything of that, like dungeon generation rules as well. It's a really an interesting game to explore, and I think that that would also be a great way to incorporate a second game specifically for exploration into a campaign where you're using Nimble specifically for combat and
Okay.
for nothing else, and you use other games for the other aspects. I think you can absolutely Frankenstein a game together with your friends using multiple systems and actually making it work.
Yeah, this seems like it would be very modular.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that pretty well does it. At the end of the day, I really liked it. I will run it again. It did well for what it was designed to do. It greatly streamlined combat to the point where we got done and were able to move on to the next thing really quickly. I was able to more or less keep them on task. Again, I think the oldest one was like 16 or 17 and the other two were like 13, 14.
Okay.
And, you know, very neurospicy, especially the 13-year-old who was playing the mage. Trying to keep him on task was next to impossible. But even with all of that struggle of trying to keep everything rolling, keep everything going, keep everyone on task, I was still able to get a module that normally, under ideal circumstances, takes me 4 hours to run, done in 2.5 hours.
Nice.
Beginning to end, complete resolution. I can't tell you the number of times that I have tried to run this and have not gotten all the way through all of the encounters in this module, playing it with 5e. And I was able to basically get the whole thing done in half the time. So
Nice.
Yes, this is absolutely going into my rotation of, you know, one-shot games and learning games and other scenarios like that.
Okay.
So do you have any last commentary that you want to add on to this before we sign off?
No, I think, like I said, I think this looks good. I really think this is streamlined. It looks like it could be modular. So if you wanted to build some extra rule sets on here to kind of flesh it out, but just as it is, I think this is a good, simple, rules light game. Great for one shots, probably really solid for a campaign as well, for a more quote, quote, casual gaming experience and less of a rules intense game.
Right. Yeah. The simplicity of the rules really helped a lot.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that given the character creation guidelines and given the outlines for the different classes presented in the player handbook, I could probably get a brand new player who has never played a TTRPG. I can get their character created and get them playing in 10 minutes. There's no way that you could do anything even remotely close to that in 5e.
No.
It takes you 10 minutes just to get your stats rolled and all of your skills assigned. And then you have to add your proficiencies, you have to add your inventory, you have to add your class skills, you have to add your racial skills or your species skills, I guess they are now. Yeah, I have never had a character creation for a new player in 5e that took less than half an hour.
Half an hour, that's quick.
That is quick. That is for somebody who has a lot of experience playing video games.
Yeah.
And so they understand the concept of character creation and they understand the concept of how, different things correlate to one another. But yeah, typically somebody who has no TTRPG experience whatsoever, it typically takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to create a character for them in 5e. And by the time you're done with that, their brain is already mush. They don't have the attention span left to actually focus and play a game.
Right.
That's why I so often, whenever I'm doing one shots at some place like the library or at a con, I show up with pre-gen characters because I don't have time to do that. By the time
especially if you have multiple new characters.
Yeah, especially if I have 4 people showing up and 3 of them have never played before and I have to generate 3 characters on the fly right here, right now. By the time we get done, that 4th person who knows what they're doing, they've been sitting there twiddling their thumbs for 20 minutes. I've already lost them. And then the other 3, they're just overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that they just had to try and figure out, and they don't know where everything is. They have to try and it's a mess. And then half of my time is already done, and so I'm trying to compress everything into the remaining time, and it's just a mess. I think with Nimble, I feel like I could get them from a blank character sheet to rolling dice and actually playing the game. Not rolling dice as part of character creation, actually playing the game in 10 minutes or less.
Okay.
And whenever you only have 2 hours to play, that matters.
Yes, absolutely.
So anyway, all of that aside, I'm going to include links in the description for where you can get Nimble RPG online. You can go to their website and buy the PDFs. I think they just recently wrapped up a Kickstarter for their second print run.
Okay.
I don't know if they have hard copies available through their website or if that was exclusively you had to back it through Kickstarter in order to get a physical copy. But you can go to their website and purchase and download the PDFs for the full game. I'm pretty sure they also have a free quick start guide available for download on their website as well. So I'll put links to all of that in the show notes. But anyway, thank you everyone for listening today. If you have any comments, suggestions, or ideas, please send us an email, undercommontaste@gmail.com, or come join us on our Discord. You can find a link to the Discord and all of our other social media through our website, undercommontaste.com. You can also find a link there to our Patreon that I am in the process of deprecating. I'm starting to pull things off of it. And also our itch store, undercommontaste.itch.io, where you can find our liminal horror adventure, Beneath the Lake, or my solo RPG, Forever Home.
If it's your first time, we're very glad you found us. You can search up our other episodes just on your podcatcher of choice. Just search up Under Common Taste, where you can join us on our lore deep dives or mechanics adventures or talking to other game creators about how to make games and game building mechanics as well.
And speaking of game mechanics and such, I think next time, we're going to go back and look at Post-Apocalyptia a little bit more and talk about, how I'm structuring dice resolution mechanics, how I'm structuring skill checks and combat rolls and all of that stuff. And talking a little bit about the evolution of where I started and how I've ended up and how I got from point A to point B, how I got there, simplifying things and streamlining things so that maybe you can get some inspiration on how you want to design your game. Maybe you can learn from my mistakes and not have to make them yourself. But yeah, I think that's what we're going to talk about next time. So until then, stay safe, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Happy gaming.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Under Common Taste. Our theme song is Massacre Ann, written and performed by Mary Kroll and used with permission. You can find Mary online at marykroll.bandcamp.com or on Patreon at patreon.com/Dr. Mary C. Kroll. Our logo is by David Sutherland. You can find more of David's work on deviantart.com/David Sutherland or on instagram.com/Willex_73. We'll be back in 2 weeks, so stay safe, and we'll see you then.